Hello, I am Radagast, and this is Mystic Brew and the War on Nature, Gaia. I was triggered, actually, to do this by reading something about one of Donald Trump's appointees. It looks like the guy who's going to be the Attorney General. That would be Jeff Sessions. And what triggered me was that I think what I read, I didn't go through the whole article. I think I'm on minds.com, so I see a lot of feeds and just the kind of headlines. But apparently he wants to, I guess, kick back against some of the legalization laws for marijuana in the states. And it is, and for me, it's not really so much about marijuana, and of course also to me it seems like a complete shitting on states' rights, which to me is part of what the United States, which is set up as a republic, is based on, states' rights, with the federal government kind of being a little bit of minor management, keeping the borders and stuff like that going. What the federal government has become, it's an abomination, is what it's become. And so what kind of triggered me, and it's, I'm in Virginia where they have some hemp programs running, and I'm a big proponent of hemp. Okay, hemp would be the basically not psychoactive aspect of the cannabis genus. And of course, with the psychoactive ones, there's two main genuses or geni, and that would be sativa and indica. And sativa is known as the more uplifting, kind of get your, if you have a heavy work day ahead of you and you're a stoner, you would have sativa. And then if you get home at night and you want to just kind of turn into, go into a semi-coma, you would have some of the heavy indica strains. But I'm talking about just basic cannabis, I'm talking about both, but when it comes about hemp, I'm talking about the industrial hemp, the stuff that George Washington grew. And something that was made legal during World War II because we needed lots of rope. So they decriminalized it until the war was over, then they recriminalized it. And what triggers me, and why the title of this one is The War on Nature, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, or Gaia, because to me, Gaia and nature are synonymous. I don't know how much I'm going to get into my own cosmology here. It might creep into my language. But I'm pretty sure that somebody like a Jeff Sessions is probably a Christian. And Christians have unfortunately, what I consider to be an unholy alliance with the Old Testament. But the Old Testament has its uses for sure. All scripture does. And but to me, one of the landmarks of the people of the book. Okay, now so the people of the book would be Muslims, Christians, and Jews. Is that it basically in its founding was a war on nature. I guess some of my cosmology will creep in here. But I'm going to try not to jump around. I might revisit it. But with Jeff Sessions, okay, being as I'm quite sure he's Bible-based, and that would include both testaments, that it's really clear that when humanity was given dominion of the earth, and to me, dominion means stewardship, but in their own language. I'm only doing this because I know that's his belief system. And to me, anybody who's a Christian or a person of the book and thinks it's okay to criminalize nature, to me, I consider that demonic, out and out demonic. Everything that grows on this planet was given to us. It was created for us before we even arrived. Now, sure, we've done some cultivation of things. That's part of the dominion or stewardship part. Avocados were not always so plump and juicy. It was part of how we hybridize things. and that kind of natural way of creating better strains of things is sometimes the argument that GMO proponents use. Oh, so much of things are genetically modified. Yeah, they were done in natural ways. They weren't playing with the nucleus and injecting strange things. They weren't putting flounder genes in tomatoes. They've done that to make tomatoes more cold resistant. So when I hear somebody like Jeff Sessions, even from, I mean, I'm not even from a legal standpoint of states' rights, although for people like an attorney general, I guess that's an argument. But just from, I'm going to call it a natural law, the ultimate of laws, which is natural law. And what's the word that they use in the Constitution? Self-evident. That we derive our sovereignty from the Creator. And Creator's a nice generic term that can span any number of cosmologies. And again, according to people who reference from a book, the Creator gave us a planet with all green things that were ours to use. So, in my opinion, outlawing marijuana is like outlawing an apple. I mean, seriously, to me, there is no difference in as far as what was given to us and how we decide to use nature. Nature was given to us. I mean, it's our bounty. And nature is our real inheritance, this planet and nature. Now, somebody like me who is kind of a Sophian or somewhat Gnostic in my cosmology, Gaia is the living representation, in 3D, the material representation of the spirit Sophia. And Sophia means wisdom in Greek. And so when we are disallowed from using the gifts that the Creator gave us, the only thing that stands between the Creator and the created, or interferes in that holy relationship, are demons. If you do the work of demons, you're demonic. And so what triggered me about Jeff Sessions is what I considered to be demonic behavior. And so it kind of, what the trigger was, here we go, this is to me one of the, as we kind of all strive for sovereignty and freedom, and of course the responsibility to administer to ourselves, and form the kind of governments that we, the people, want, which is how the United States was originally set up. It plugs me in. It triggers me. And I know that as now as a Virginia resident and wanting to set up a situation, we'll call it community, for me, one of the things that often fails with intentional communities is that they're still getting in their cars and commuting to jobs, as opposed to setting up a community that builds from the ground up in a self-sufficient way. Now, the hemp is one of the most useful plants on the planet. I mean, whether you're making rope or paper or clothes. Now, actually, one of the people behind the banning of hemp was Hearst, William Randolph Hearst, because he was printing newspapers, and he owned paper or pulp mills that were producing the paper. Interestingly enough, when you have paper mills made from trees, you are raping nature. So here come the demons again. All right. Somebody who would rather cut down trees and take away that oxygen producing and CO2 remediating mechanism instead of using hemp. because he had bought, anybody can grow hemp, but not everybody can buy a tract of forest and cut down the trees. And of course, he used journalism, or his paper, the way many papers, the way that actually the paper has always been used, is to create a narrative or create public opinion. So that's when he started, first of all, using the less, most people don't think scientifically. And so they conflated hemp with marijuana. People like Pancho Villa and his people, were these crazy shoot 'em up villains who were reduced to murderous rage by the effects of marijuana. So again, I mean, Hearst actually waged a campaign from his newspaper, a widely read newspaper, to demonize. It's funny when demons do cast their own dark spirits on other things, and demonized the cannabis genus, which would include both hemp and the psychoactive plant, all for his own gain. And so, I mean, here's kind of like where we're seeing the patterns of the kind of these corporatists. Notice I'm not going to say like everybody who has a corporation is terrible, but then there's corporatism, and like any ism, and the ists that come out of those isms, usually that's a word that should trigger people. When you hear ist or ism, check it out. That's cultish in many ways. And so what I'm trying to kind of like bring up is just to show a pattern to people. And I'm assuming that some people who do listen to me might be people of the book, and whether or not they've ever really considered this corporate the kind of the new world order and the globalists, how they hate nature, they poison it. They poison the rivers with their manufacturing. They don't feel it's almost then they don't feel a sense of honoring the earth. Then you get things that initially start out, I guess, to oversee them, like the EPA, but then they get filled with corporatists, and all they do is produce regulations that prevent the common person who can't buy lawyers or get away with all kinds of chicanery from using nature. So the EPA, which was supposedly a watchdog, gets infiltrated by moneyed interests, and then it becomes another tool to prevent us, the simple people, that the world was created for, from interacting with nature, whatever that legislation is. And so, to me, one of the ways we kind of unite is, many atheists are just good people. They have, and I actually think that a reason a lot of atheists are atheists is because the creator concept that they're asked to buy in is to the jealous God that they're presented to in the Old Testament. Somebody who the average person emotionally outgrows when they're 14. So I was an atheist for a few minutes based on the God concept that was offered me. I was an altar boy for 5 years, actually. And so, I get the chance to talk to the good reverends of the Episcopalian Church I belong to, the Holy Catholics, and didn't make much progress in trying to, any chance we can get away from what appears to be a tantrum throwing adolescent of a God? No, not much luck. So I had to go and find the creator on my own, finding it in my heart. And of course, some readings that finally, allow me to really see it. And the creator is most revealed. If you're not looking in your heart, if you're looking out into the world, the creator is revealed in nature, Mother Nature. And of course, when we come back to, Gnostic concepts, which predate the event in Sinai, I'll call it, nature was synonymous with the creator, who they called Sophia. And the Greeks, Greeks had, the kind of the Gaia concept as far as their mythos. Keep an eye on the time. I'd like to keep this to 15 minutes. So anyway, to me, one of the things we want to do is we start claiming our freedom and our sovereignty, all connected to being able to conduct ourselves responsibly and as adults. And an adult is not an age. Adult is the ability for you to emotionally manage yourself, especially to, even though I got triggered, I didn't come on all emotional. I let some emotion out because or else I'd be dry and boring. But it doesn't inform my thinking. And to me, adult thinking is that you know how you feel, but you cap your emotions and then you form logical thoughts. It's not full of a lot of ad hominem. When I refer to people who are anti-nature as demons, to me, this is actually a logic. Again, if we accept that there are non-physical entities that, and actually there's a few groupings of them that are actually anti-humanity, anti-life, jealous of life, and that word jealous comes up again, and but we won't go there. There's no other way to explain that people who would hurt the earth and then hurt the people who were put on the earth to enjoy its fruits. There is no other terminology I could use other than demonic. I mean, yes, some of these people are psychopaths, but they're not all psychopaths. Some of them are just, to me, demonically influenced. They probably have the capacity to see it if they were led there. And I think part of that is because in the founding of the book, of the three great religions based on the book, there is no regard for nature unless you go into Genesis, and then you kind of those very, very early opening things before the Sinai event. Okay, the Sinai event to me is something that is added in, and it seems it's part of the 5 books of Moses. But again, I see some cutting and pasting in how all that flows. But if we go like to the very, very beginning, okay, before if you follow it through, even if you want to call it the 6 days of creation, and on the 6th day is when we show up. Well, everything that on those other 5 days that was made, and then we show up, it was made for us to show up. Okay, it was made for us. That is our inheritance. And anybody who stands between us and our inheritance is clearly demonic. And so anyway, so I'm not really happy with Jeff Sessions. Attorney generals can come and go. I am hoping that he's expressing an opinion. I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump did say is he felt that these people should express their own opinions. I think that, at least in the case of some of the other appointees, like Tillerson, and who else said some strange stuff? Pompeo, where they kind of came out with this anti-Russian stuff. To me, a reading on the almost the kind of anti-Russian psychosis that is currently running through Congress, I can kind of see why they might realize, I need this job so I can get my job done. Here you go. Here's the raw meat you boys and girls were looking for. I think it was Rubio or Cruz. I get those two guys confused, and they don't look anything alike. But was trying to get, I believe it was Tillerson, to admit that Vladimir Putin was a war criminal, serious charge. And Tillerson wasn't biting. He wouldn't go there. Good for him. Apparently, he was willing to give them some meat, but not down to the marrow. So this is a very interesting time. But I have to admit, the person who is, I kind of disregard that stuff. I consider that like, telling little white lies so they can get in and get the job done. But when I read that Sessions thinks that there needs to be like a new war on drugs, anybody knows the absolute cost, not just in dollars, but in human lives. Anybody who spends a moment, even a minute, in handcuffs for partaking of nature, that is a crime against humanity. There is just no way that you, again, it's like being arrested for biting an apple. I don't really care. We go, oh, the apple doesn't get you high. Getting high is this privacy and sovereignty of my own headspace. How that might make my conduct, you can certainly act on if I conduct myself in an antisocial way. But the very concept that I've decided to change my neurochemicals, you have no fucking business in my head. And of course, that's where we get a little bit back into almost a lot of religions, because it's not, when people do belief system checks, when people want to know what's going on in your head, they have it's none of their fucking business. How we conduct ourselves on the planet, how we interact with each other, that's our collective business. And whoever we set up and kind of, to police that those behaviors, if we consent to that, that's okay. But what goes on in our head, how we decide to monitor or adjust our own neurochemistry, I will say it again, that is none of anybody's fucking business, and certainly not government's. So anyway, I think that'll close that out there with a little bit of passion. So if you, anyway, ModWiz125, my name is Radagast, and if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If it's the first time you're seeing me and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And and just kind of a note, I had somebody approach me about kind of doing a video together, and we're kind of looking for I agreed, but I left it to him to pick a subject. I approached another person who I have a lot of respect for to discuss a topic, and he did agree, and we haven't quite completed the contract, so to speak, and I look forward to that. And then I have my other friend and myself, who we're going to be starting like a completely different YouTube channel and show, and I look forward to that, and that's in the works. But for now, I am ModWiz125, and if you like, please subscribe. Thank you. My love to you all. Peace.